Hello, my name's Noel. Today I'm going to show you how to use your DJI Mini 2 to take photos using manual mode, and we're going to create a HDR image. So from the app, once we're out there, you probably want to set this before you go actually, but so get your drone switched on, press the go to fly. Now in the top bar you'll see there's three little dots up in the right hand corner, and if you select that and then go over to camera, and what we want to do is just make sure that the size is set to 4:3. That's the ratio that it's taking a photo. Believe it or not, 16:9 is actually smaller. So once you've done that, move down. You want to turn the histogram on because it's really difficult to see what you're doing on quite a bright day. And you want to make sure that you're getting the exposures pretty much bang on. And we want to turn on the overexposure warning. That's quite handy to have at the same time. And I like to turn on the grid as well because it helps with composition. Where the lines cross over in the center of the image is pretty much where you want to put a subject. So it's a good starting point to use the grid and get used to using it to put, say the horizon on the top third or the bottom third. It's just a really handy thing to have to start with. You go back and then go fly. All those settings are saved in. You can see your grids now on the screen. And what we're going to do here is we've got down in the bottom corner there, we've got auto. And if you press that, it then flips over to pro, which allows us to play with all the settings. So what I like to do here is make sure that your ISO is at 100. We're not going to use that at all. We're just going to lock it on 100. So we're just going to use the shutter speed to control the light now. So once we've done that, that's fine. What you might want to do as well is just do the same for your video as well. Just make sure you got it set to manual. You've just got a bit more control over it yourself. You don't get any fluctuations with exposure when you're shooting into the light, etc. So it's always a good setting to have. So once you've done this, then take your drone up. Okay, you can see here I'm using a different flight video to take the HDR images. My first exposure is at 200th of a second, and that gives us our overexposed shot. You will see that the histogram is all over to the right. And now from here I will scan around with the shutter, trying to find, watching the histogram at the same time, an exposure that will give us a photo with the histogram somewhere in the middle. So this is our middle exposure, and then I will look to do an underexposure, and as you can see I'm going right down now, and you can see the histogram is all over to the left, and that's 2,500th of a second. And that's my last exposure. So I'll now take those images home and I will import them into Lightroom, where I will now talk you through that process. Okay, so over into Lightroom, I'm going to import the three photos that I took from my drone, and I'm going to have them side by side here like this. So now we can look at them here, and you can see on the histogram that it's all over to the left hand side, and that's our underexposed shot, and that just reveals the highlight areas a bit better for us, and the sun will come out a bit better at the final result photo. This one here is somewhere in the middle. You see the graph is up both sides of that photo, and this one is just to help us line the other images up and help with the exposure. And then this one is the overexposure. So this one should be revealing all of our details in the shadow areas a bit better, and over on that forest over here as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to combine all those images together by highlighting them, and then we're going to right click and we're going to go Photo Merge HDR. We're going to let that quickly process this image here. Now, auto align just aligns all the images up for us, so if the drone moved in flight, this part of Lightroom will just line all those images up over the top of each other for us. It makes less work. And this here is just auto settings. It just means that the Lightroom is going to try and do the best it can to make this image a bit better, what it thinks is better. So I'm going to enable that anyway, because these sliders are going to be adjusted over the side here, and I'll be able to just pull them back if I'm not too happy with them. Deghosting, now I leave this at none because there's no movement within the photo. We're going to create the stack. This means it's going to combine all the images that we selected into one folder for us, and the final photo will be at the front, much like this one over here. That one's got 5 photos in it, including the HDR one. So we're just going to click merge and it will go off and do that for us. A little progress bar at the top. Once it's gotten to the end, we will then have our new stacked folder down here. Our HDR is now on the front and it's come out quite well. So first things I want to do is, well, every photographer should really look out for this with their photos, is just have a look for the horizon, make sure it's dead straight. If it's not, go over to the crop overlay tool, and once you're in there, just draw a line straight down that image on the horizon using the angle tool, and that should line it up for us. Click on done. There you go, it's now lined up. Something else I want to do, go back into the crop tool. Our top line is on the horizon, but I don't like this house down here, so I'm going to move that up. Oh, hang on, we're going to unlock the aspect ratio first, because we don't want it to move the whole image inwards. We're quite happy with the width. So we're just going to move the house out at the bottom, much like that. And then I'm going to bring this down to meet the horizon, and you see it's pretty much there. And that's the horizon on the third, and that quite happily lines our Horton Tower up on the bottom right hand third. And then we click done. Once we've done that, we're going to reset the vibrance. I don't like these tools playing with my colours, so I like to keep these both at 0, vibrance and saturation. I'm going to move down. I'm going to go straight to the hue, saturation and luminance, and we're just going to play with orange. We're going to move that up a little bit. We can see that the orange colour in this area is just bumping up a little bit, and same with the yellows. You see the yellows in the grass. I'll push that right over just so you can see where it's moving it, and I expect you to do the same as well. It's the best way to see what it's actually doing in the photo is to overdo it. And then here you can see the green. Look down in this area. When I move that bar, you'll see it's just pulling the green out of the grass down there. So I don't like green to be too glary. It's a bit like blue. I don't like that to be showing too much in the sky, so I like to pull that back a little bit as well. Most of these movements are going to be very small and subtle movements. You're not going to try and push it so it looks a bit overdone. Now I'm going to move down to color grading, and here I only play with the shadows and the highlights. I like to just use a little bit of warmth there in the highlights, so that just warms up all this area here. And then the cold areas will be more in the shadows. So as you can see, it's got a bit of blue in the image now where the darker areas are. Now this portrays what I actually felt on the day. In the sunlight it was quite nice and warm, and in the shadows it feels quite cold, and that's what I'm trying to put across to my viewer. So I move down and I head to transform, because I can see that the tower is slightly leaning away a little bit, and the way to see this is to hover the mouse over the vertical slider, and you can see that it's not in line with the lit up side of the tower. And just to exaggerate that, I will move that over this way into the minus area, and you can see on 0 it's still doing it. So what we'll do, we're going to plus, and you'll see I'm lining that up, not gonna overdo it. You just want to do a little bit, somewhere like 14 might be okay. So there you go, it just looks a little bit more straight. And now sometimes when you do this, it reveals a bit of white when you lean the picture over a little bit. You can see there up in the top on the corners, the white has been revealed. Now if you have that problem on any of your images, just put a tick in this constrain crop down the bottom here, and it will get rid of those little white edges. So moving down, it's up to you if you want to add a vignette to your image. I'm not going to do one on this. I actually think it's okay, and it might look a bit weird over in the highlight area, so I'm just going to leave that. Now sometimes, and I like to just play with this to see if it does anything to the image, go down to the calibration tool and just look at the blue primary and just push that saturation. If you overdo it, you see what I mean. It's not destroying the image too much, and you can just add a very little bit, and it just adds a little bit more to the image without completely destroying it. So that's my final photo, and it doesn't look too bad. If you want to get rid of some of those lines in the sky, you can do that. The little chemical trails from the planes, you can just run your little heal tool, and it just gets rid of them. You'll have a bit more time to get rid of yours, but there you go, that's the final image. I'm quite happy with that. So that's it. That's how you process HDRs. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.